All right, thank you for joining me this afternoon. I hope you're having a great time. This is Mr. Walter with Mr. Walter Around the World, and today I'm having one of those sessions which is a lot of fun. We are having a quiz of food origins. So we're going to test our knowledge. I haven't taken the quiz either. So we're going to take our knowledge of stories and of some of our favorite produce, some of our dishes and pantry samples. So it's going to be a lot of fun because there's foods all over and we can obviously recognize right away some of the foods that we see and that are kind of part of our menu or things that we eat at some point. So right in front of us we see corn and we see some of the zucchinis and we see papayas and we see peaches right here and we see apples all around and there's pineapples as well and carrots. So we're going to take a quiz of all these foods and where they're coming from, as well as some of their favorite stories. So if you like food like I do, then you probably see some of your favorite foods right in front. So as we celebrate our final day of Earth Week, then I thought it was really interesting to actually see some of these foods and foods that where they're coming from our bounty here on Earth. So all right, so let's go. I think it's going to be fun. I'm always going to have the chat open for anybody who wants to chime in and just say hi. So I'll be checking in the chat and I'm going to just open it up right now and just make sure that everybody's here available and I can say hi to everybody. So I'm just going to open up that right away and there we go. So perfect. So thank you for joining me this afternoon on a great Friday afternoon, right before we have some of our of the weekend. So thank you for joining, and there we go. Well, I think we got. Let's see if we got all this. There we go, and there we go. I think. Perfect. All right. So there we go. So thank you for joining in, and so we'll kind of keep on moving and get right through it. So we are going to go and look at food origins around the world, and let's start moving. So we're going to take a quick quiz of all these things and where they're coming from. I'm going to take right here some of the other elements off. There we go. And our first question of the day is what or which South American fruit became popular in Europe before it really caught on the United States. So we know it's a popular food. It comes from South America and it became popular in Europe and now it is popular here in the United States. So actually let's kind of look. Here is South America. We have Brazil right here and Chile and Peru, as well as Colombia right up there. And then we have Argentina. So we are here in Dallas, Texas. Here is where we start. And so this food, which is actually already popular here in the United States, comes from South America, but was also popular in Europe before it came to the States. So, as we take a full look at the options here, the foods that from different countries, we are looking at that food that came from South America. So let's see what options are there. Was it the avocado? Was it the tomato? Or was it the papaya? So three different fruits that came from South America, but were popular in Europe and then caught on to the United States. So obviously, tomato is a real big popular here in the United States. We use them in pizzas and we use it in general. So we use spaghetti sauces as well based on tomatoes. So tomato is actually very popular. Avocado, I think, is also very popular over the last few. Papaya, I don't see that being as popular, which even though it's a great fruit, is not as popular here in the United States. So I actually do think that is, that it is, something. So Nicole's going with tomato, and maybe Catalina is going with another fruit. So thank you guys for joining. We are, let's see, we'll see if we go and we get for tomato. So is it tomato? Good job, Nikki. Absolutely, tomato. So tomato originated in the Andes Mountains, but were considered poisonous by the U.S. until after Italy and other European countries adopted them as part of their diet. So initially started. So this is where tomato comes from the Andes Mountain. So here's the Andes Mountain range, and we haven't gone to Mount Everest. That's another place which I gotta jot down. Mount Everest, we gotta go, and definitely a place that we will have to go through right here in the Andes. So if you see the full Andes range here in South America, that it crosses Chile, it crosses into Peru, it crosses into Brazil, you see all the way that goes right there. So the Andes Mountains right here, and this is where tomato originated from. So let's see where we are in the world. We are right here. The place where tomato originated in the Andes Mountains, but they were considered poisonous. And it wasn't until Italy and Europe and some of the other European countries adopted as part of their diet that actually became popular in the United States. So great element of tomato. Good job. Great way. All right, Nikki, you got it right this time. So let's go to our next question. Our next question comes from these great dishes. So, take a quick look at some of these dishes. Wow, there's some pancakes, so there's honey, and there's marmalade, and then you have all the different fruits, and you have, I think this is kind of chocolate, like cocoa. We have some small tomatoes right here. So we'll see what this question is all about. But everything seems to be, if you see, there's also all sorts of berries. So the question is, which ancient food enjoyed by Otzi the Iceman is popular breakfast staple today? So which is an ancient food, and it seems that it comes in from this side right in the middle of Europe. So it's enjoyed by Otzi the Iceman, is a popular breakfast staple today. So, all right. So do we think that do pancakes? I think pancake is pretty obvious, right? We have 3 pictures of pancakes on the pictures that we have. Or is it granola? That could be another one. We see a couple of them. Or is it fried eggs, which we see right in the middle as well. So which popular, and it's an ancient food. Ancient. So I'm not sure. Maybe pancakes seem to be pretty old in general. I don't think fried eggs was kind of like a main thing, but in granola, I think it's much more of it's a little bit more modern. I think maybe pancakes could be the ones that we are actually looking at. Nikki says it's granola, but let's find out. I'm gonna go with pancakes. I think pancakes is the ancient food that we're looking for. Yes, very nicely done. Pancakes. So pancakes, the earliest records of pancakes, or like a pancake-like food, dates back to 30,000 years ago. So that is how old pancakes are. So tomorrow morning, Saturday morning, make sure that you get up and do some pancakes, because I think it's a great homage that 30,000 years ago pancakes were available. It was a society of Otzi, the Iceman, living in Italy 5,300 years ago, that made him a common part of their diet. So even though there's records about 30,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, this society of ice people that lived in this area of Italy, then used them as a part of their common diet. And now we take a quick look at some of the mountains here in Italy, they're absolutely beautiful. However, and from this origin is right here in this side where pancakes, originated, and then from then on they became popular by this group. So beautiful place here in Italy, and this is where pancakes come from. At least pancakes became popular. So let's gonna zoom out from where we are here in the world and see where are we looking. So we are right at the top of Italy. So here's the whole here's Italy, here's the boot, here's Sicily right here, and then here is the area of the Otzi Icemen, which lived 5,000 years ago, and they made pancakes as part of their diet. So a really interesting point that we have. So there's 2 right answers right away, and we're going to keep on going now for our next food as we take a quick look of food's origins around the world. So the next food, here we go. How old are the world's oldest known noodles? Great question. So here actually is coming from Central Asia. So here's China, and right at the edge of China, Mongolia. So how old is the world's oldest known noodles? So there we go. Some noodles right in front of you. And it's great food, great to have it. So we have all sorts of noodles here in the United States. We have, the noodles that we see. We actually have some other types in which we just add water as well. So instant ones, and you can make your own noodles. So it's a great staple of international diet. However, one of the great questions is, how old are the world's oldest known noodles? How old? So let's see. Let me check in the chat to see who's there. All right, there's a few of you are saying that there's old. So is it 300 years old? I don't think so. I think there's got to be way older. 4,000 years ago? No, I don't actually think 15,000 years old. I think 15,000 is more like it. So 4,000 years ago, pancakes were being, introduced as popular diet. 15,000 years old, it seems like it is that old. Noodles, let's check it out. Wrong. Well, maybe not that old. So it was 4,000 years old. So this discovery of the 4,000-year-old bowl of noodles in China's Qinghai province settled a long-time dispute between China and Italy. Both countries claimed that the birthplace of the popular dish. So Italy said that they were the ones who originally had noodles, and then the Chinese said that they had noodles and they were from their country. So this bowl that was found of noodles in the China Qinghai province was 4,000 years old. So they actually found a bowl of noodles, and that kind of settled the whole argument for saying that yes, the Chinese have the oldest bowl of noodles, and that's where the food started and came from. So really, really interesting. Really interesting. All right. So where are we? We are right here in China, and it's China, and right beside China and right beside Mongolia. So a great, interesting place as we kind of move around for our next question in all these different areas. So let's see. We are heading to our next question, and our next question, here we go. Our next question, one of my favorite foods, ice cream. All right, so ice cream, here we go. Where was the modern day ice cream cone first produced? Very interesting. So the very first modern day ice cream cone, where was it made? Was it made in St. Louis, Missouri, in New York City, or was it across the way in Rome, back in Italy? So 3 places in our world where we can kind of claim that the modern day ice cream was done. So where we think it was in New York, I would think New York, right? It was like I think it's much more like this kind of portable. You have the ice cream. You know, it's not so much of a sit down in a bowl or in a cup, so you're kind of just moving around. Maybe New York was the one. Uh, St. Louis, Missouri, maybe. So St. Louis, Missouri has a lot of traffic through that city. It could be much more of the international traffic that came by. Could have been. Rome is also a great option since we already see that Italy has had several inventions of food. So where do you think that the modern day ice cream cone is coming from? All right, I think I read it was Nicole says it's waffles first, but it says she thinks it's in New York. So let's take Nikki's kind of recommendation and let's see if she is right. It's in New York City. It is New York City. All right, so it's actually it seems to be an Italian, but it's that Italo Marchioni is credited for inventing and patenting the modern version of the popular waffle cone in New York City in 1896. So 1896, we're talking almost like 125 years ago. So here we go, New York City, where the current waffle cone was invented. So if you get a chance, go to your refrigerator, and if you have some ice cream or if you have some waffles, get them ready, get them done, and have yourself some ice cream. I think it's a great idea as well because it started almost 125 years ago. So thank you so much, Italo Marchioni, for inventing this great waffle cone for us to kind of walk around and have some ice cream for this place 125 years ago. So we are looking at New York City, and I really like New York because we get a chance to kind of zoom in. And you can imagine New York City 100 years ago, obviously being a lot more green. There's the Empire State Building. We're just flying right past it. And I think the Citibank building is right around here, as well as the Chrysler building. And as we fly right past all this, there's all the grounds for the, look at that, wow. We'll look at the full city here in Manhattan. And we keep on going. All right, so this is the birthplace of the waffle cone here in New York City 125 years ago. So a great, really interesting place, and also a great invention as we kind of move out from New York. So we are right on top of, right at the edge of the Atlantic Ocean. Here we are, here's New York. Here's Florida right back. We were there yesterday. There's Maine and New England all the way up there. And then we have Michigan, and then we have the Great Lakes, and we cross right at the edge with Canada, as well as the Niagara Falls that are there. And we are right here in Dallas, Texas. All right, so let's see where we go next, what the next question is going to bring us. And the next question is, which ancient trade route brought food and spices from the east starting 2000 before Christ, BC? So which ancient trade route brought food and spices from the east and started 2000 years before Christ? So, amazing. So here we go. We have three options. Was it the Silk Road? Where's Silk Road? Let's see if we have it. Oh, it's not around here. All right, so which one was the one? Was it Silk Road? Was it the South Route? Or was it the Tin Route? So when I think about, and here's some of the spices that were coming in, and we can see already, some of the cinnamons, we can see some of the vanillas, we can see some of the other spices that were moving from one place to another. So which route? I think the Silk Road, when I think about it, I think much more of all the clothes and garments that kind of move back and forth. When I think of the salt route, I do think of spices because salt was like a renowned and one of the elements that are coming back and forth from different places, especially from the east. And I just don't know the tin route, but it doesn't quite sound food and spices. I think it's more related with salt. I'm gonna go with salt route, and I'm wrong. So no, this is not the salt, this is the Silk Road. So the Silk Road transported almonds, apples, peaches, rice, and spices from Asia to Europe. So a great place right here as we kind of look at some of the places here in Asia and in the East, in the Middle East as well. As we take some look at the plaza, I'm not quite sure where we are. I'm going to kind of look right around, but yeah, it started beautiful places that started from here the Silk Road and transported almonds, apples, peaches, rice, and spices from Asia all the way up to Europe. So let's see where we are. We are very close. Oh, yeah, we're right at the edge. Here's of the Asia continent, and here's India, and here's there's China, there's Mongolia, Russia as well. So it says that Silk Road would go all the way, probably went all the way through Turkey, all the way up to Europe, or it could have gone right through here all the way through. I'm going to have to research that to see, where the Silk Road actually went right by, which is very, very interesting. All right, so let's kind of move along and let's get our next question. Here we go. Our next question today is, which country is considered the fatherland of apples? Wow. Which country is considered the fatherland of apples? There you go. Here's some great, beautiful apples. So, which country is considered the fatherland? So, is it Mongolia? Is it Thailand? Or is it Kazakhstan? So, is it Mongolia? Is it Thailand? Or is it Kazakhstan? So, all three. So, we were just very close there. We were just close to Kazakhstan, right in the middle. So as we kind of look over, where do we think? And I think that you might be surprised, like I was, to know that the fatherland of apples is actually these countries, because we typically think that apples, as they grow here in the United States in abundance, and we have apple pies, and we have caramel apples, and all these great apple dishes here. That it's a very traditional, yes, and it's very traditional here for the United States. However, there's a country which is considered the fatherland of apples. So, kind of where apples originated. It's really interesting. I do think there's a few things that I can describe. I think Thailand on the bottom is kind of warm. So as you can see right here if we kind of look in the equator, and we're going to take a quick look as we cross over. So here is Miami right there, and here is Cuba, and here is the Caribbean. And if you cross over, and we cross right through, see how Thailand is very close to the equator, and therefore a lot warmer and tropical, and apples are not necessarily where they grow in abundance, so definitely has to be a bit more up north. Now the question is it way up north in Mongolia, or is it just in that middle zone in Kazakhstan? So I'm gonna say Kazakhstan, see if that's it. It could be Mongolia. We are right. Kazakhstan. We, kind of understanding a little bit about the weather and a little bit about where apples grow. There we are. We are in Kazakhstan. And the modern apple originated in a wild form in the Tian Shan Mountains of Kazakhstan. So a great picture right here of the mountains of the Tian Shan Mountains in Kazakhstan, and this is where the modern apple originated in wild form. So this is where the people from Kazakhstan found the apples and then kind of started trading them. And we can definitely see as the trade route, and we saw that in the trade route, it would have the Silk Route, and the Silk Road, we would have apples. So that's another great hint of how that happened. So yeah, absolutely. Here we go. These are the mountains where apples come from in the other side of the world in Kazakhstan. So this is where we are now. Amazing, isn't it? Because when we think about so many of these things and so many about these foods, where they're coming from, well, there you go. This is where apples come from in the Tian Shan Mountains in Kazakhstan. All right, so let's kind of keep on moving and look at some of the other options that we have. Let's look at the next question as we kind of move forward. The next question is, on shores of which lake did scientists discover the earliest evidence of farming? All right. That's a great question. Great question. So on the shores of which lake? So let's see. Here we go. Quick questions about lakes. So here's one of the lakes right here. So in which lake did scientists find the earliest version there were actually farmers living close by and farming the land? So really interesting. Really interesting. So it's a great feat not only to hunt for food and gather food, but then having the understanding that how the foods grow, and then having able to farm it. Can you imagine that leap? So it's really interesting. So do we think that is the earliest scientist discovery of farming? Was it in Lake Humia, which is right here, or the Sea of Galilee, or was it the Lake of Tanganyika? So right here in the African continent. So really interesting. So one of the things is the Sea of Galilee. It could be that's a great option. Lake Umia also could be a great candidate, but again, I still think that they're way too up high, right? If we remember, the equator goes right through here, which is much more like that fertile land, and this one has those seasons. But also thinking about it, it might be that they needed to farm to actually have food. Well, food might grow in Africa on a much more abundance. So, great question. It could go either way. So, what do you think, and what does everybody think that's actually that could happen? I think that it must be within the African continent. I think it's much more reasonable to think that that ancient man, specifically within this region, had to farm for food, get it closer to the water, and it's also right beside a lake, right? So here we have a few options, but you see the Sea of Galilee, which is much more, it's closer to the sea, so probably fishing could be one of the options. But this one is much more landlocked, and they would have to follow the water. I'm gonna say the Lake Tanganyika, and I will be wrong. So After everything I said, well, there is a little lake right here in the Sea of Galilee, and a stationary human camp discovered on the shores of the Sea of Galilee shows the earliest known evidence of plant cultivation. So again, I think it's really interesting because here you have the water right at the sea, and here we have a lake, and therefore the human camps were discovered on the shores of the sea. That shows evidence that they were planting and cultivating plants already. So very interesting. The earliest the earliest signs of farming that comes from the Sea of Galilee. Here it is, and here we are in the Sea of Galilee here in the Middle East. Perfect. So before we keep on going, I want to just tell everybody that thank you so much for joining our Star Wars games. We had a great game this past Saturday. We're coming back. We're going to have some more games over this weekend and also over the week. We are playing Star Wars Edge of the Empire, which is the game you see right here. So we are playing in this wonderful world with rolling dice. Obviously, everything is through online gaming. We're playing on Tuesdays, on Thursdays, and on Saturdays, having lots of fun, creating characters and playing and going right through all this great magical world. So it is totally an online program, and you will take the role of a smuggler, a bounty hunter, a colonist, an engineer, and even more trying to escape the clutches and escape the small little port of Mos Shuta. So you are band together with a group of survivors. You live outside the shadows of the Empire as the stars to just kind of come on in and living right at the edge of the Empire and the Outer Rim planets, and filled with unsavory folk and menacing threats and perilous plots that all these characters can go through. So it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of fun. So we teach all the rules, we supply the story, and also all the materials needed. So you only have to join in, log in to the system that we're playing. We play on Roll20, which is a virtual tabletop gaming, and having lots of fun creating and playing with these characters. So you are more than invited. Check out the links that we have for Masters of the Dungeonverse, and specifically the through Facebook, that way you can join in and have a lot of fun with us. As Mr. Adam and I, who are both really big gamers, really enjoy role-playing games as a part of our creative and fun experiences. All right, so we are still looking at foods around the world, and we are going to keep on moving to our next couple of questions. Here's a next great question, which is, in which ancient culture was the first chocolate drinks? No. Which ancient culture was the first to make chocolate drinks? Oh, great, look at that. Here's a ground cocoa and chocolate, right? And they were making chocolate drinks. So imagine, that is great, like chocolate milk and milkshakes and cocoa and so forth, things that we enjoy so much. So in which ancient culture was the first to make chocolate drinks? All right, was it the Incas? So was it the Incas way down here? Here we go, in South America. Was it the Incas that started the chocolate milk and chocolate drink traditions? Was it the Olmecs? So was it the Olmecs right here, right at the edge of Mexico and Guatemala, right at that edge? Or was it the Romans? The Romans as well, right here. So here's my thought. So my thought is that cocoa beans, which kind of grow, they also grow on temperate areas. So they go in places where it's really tropical, and you have all the lush places the way this, it can go. So as you open that and you grind the seeds, then it becomes chocolate, and then it could be so chocolate drinks. Here we have, and I know the Olmecs would have that as part of their diet, as chocolate is also one of the staples in terms of the diet within Mexico. And so I think and I am leaning towards the Olmecs in here in this area, and I would think that maybe the Incas all the way down, but I think the Romans might have adopted that from them as they came across, but I wouldn't think, again, I think they're up in the world, so it's a bit colder, but we still have Italy, and Italy is like the home place. And also we have, the Silk Road that was bringing all those spices and so forth right through, so that could be in. I'm going to go with my gut, and I'm going to go and say that is going to be the Olmecs, and that's what I'm going to go for. Olmecs. And I would be correct. Yes. So, great deduction. The history of hot chocolate. What a great element. The history of hot chocolate can be traced back to thousands of years to the Olmecs in the southern part of Mexico. They were the first to roast and grind cacao, so cocoa bean, for drinks. Great place, and thank you to the Olmecs and the Mexicans for bringing that great innovation, which is roasting first, and then grinding cocoa beans so we can enjoy chocolate as one of the staples in all our foods. So if you like chocolate ice cream, there we go. The Olmecs invented that and started to use it in drinks, and then from then on it came chocolate ice cream. And if you like chocolate anything, that's a great way of actually understanding where chocolate and where chocolate drinks came from. We are right here at the edge of the Caribbean. We are just at the southern point of Mexico, where the understanding a little bit of how the Olmecs invented chocolate drinks back thousands of years ago. And now we enjoy it. And I think right after this session, I'm going to go and get some chocolate ice cream. I think it's just due. So we'll go to our last question. And our last question is, which fermented food, right? So it's like cheese as that goes through, was tracked back 7,500 years to north central Poland. All right. Very tough question. Here it is. Here's the, what fermented food? It does look like cheese. It looks like custom-made cheese or even some sort of custard. So, what fermented food was tracked back 7,500 years ago to north central Poland? So what that means that we were looking at some sort of food, right? And we're looking at this fermented food that was so popular somewhere, and we tracked it back. It's like, was it coming from Africa? Did it come from the Middle East? Does it go to China or the Asia? Did it come from India? Did it come? It seemed, I'm still looking and finding this, and finally it got tracked all the way back 7,500 years to the north central Poland, right there. So the Polish are the ones who had this. So was it cheese? Was it sourdough bread? Or is Sauerkraut? Sauerkraut. So, not sure. So definitely it's a fermented food. Right, so my first inclination was cheese. Sourdough might be, so that'd be it. And sauerkraut, Not sure. I don't think sauerkraut is that. And it's also, a fermented cheese that was tracked back. Let's say cheese. It'd be amazing if it was cheese. It could have been sourdough. But I want to know if cheese is the answer, because that would be mind blowing. Understanding that this was happening. Is it cheese? Wow, yes, it is cheese. So, if you like cheese sticks, if you like all sorts of mozzarellas and all the cheeses, well, archaeologists found that fatty acids embedded in clay pots, providing a compelling evidence that farmers use perforated pots to separate cheese curds from wheat. So that means that in this town in the central plateau of Poland is where we can find the earliest evidence of farmers, separating the curd so we can make cheese. Incredible. So now that we know, and here's a few places that I guess in Poland where you can buy it. So cheese, and even though we also think it's just a great staple here in the United States and in Europe and Italy as well, and we use it for almost everything, it came from, or the earliest records is that it started by farmers in central Poland. So a great piece of trivia, as we have tracked food from around the world, and we let's see what the score is. We are excellent explorers. So you're so close. We're just kind of like one more, and we would have achieved global mastery, right? But we do have a curious spirit. We're actually moving back and forth, and as we see, we get a little trophy as an excellent explorer. So thank you for joining me today on our small little exploration of foods around the world and where they are coming from. So it's really interesting of where these foods that we see every day. So when you open up your refrigerator and you can say, hey, let me have some chocolate milk, and that came, thousands of years ago from the Olmecs in Mexico. And also when you look in and say, hey, let's have some cheese, and then you can say, oh, did you know that cheese was tracked all the way back 7,000 years ago to the Central Plateau in Poland, across the way in Europe? So very interesting. And when you're having an ice cream, you say, hey, did you know that this ice cream cone came from New York and was invented over 120 years ago? So incredible places as we go. So I want to make sure that, and thank you for watching today. We have a great ongoing program. So we have at 3 o'clock the steam train with Mr. Dorian. It's a lot of fun and also a great way to just finish off the week. Then at 4 o'clock we have from the Numi Vault, this is Mr. Ben with classic puzzles and other brain twisters presented in a live interactive manner. So there's a lot of fun as well. And at 5 o'clock today, we have closing messages and announcements from Mr. Justin. It gives us an overview of the week, what's coming up next week, and how we keep developing the New Minds TV. And we have been growing. This is the 30th episode of New Minds in general. So this is my 30th episode of kind of looking around and using Google Earth. So I thank you so much for joining. Thank you for being part of Earth Week 2020 as we explored animals around the world and we explored buildings that conserve energy, as well as foods from around the world on this great world of ours. Thank you for tuning in for real inspired learning. And remember to always pursue your passion until it becomes your talent. I am Mr. Walter. My passion is gaming and having fun with friends, and you are invited to some of the games that I run and Mr. Adam runs, like the Star Wars role-playing game and Masters of the Dungeonverse, which comes every day at 2 o'clock. So at 1 o'clock. And so thank you and have a great rest of the Saturday. Have a great weekend, and we will see you back here on Monday afternoon. Have a great day.